Good morning, Silver. I am Noela Loregas reporting live from the Philippines. And for the blazing headlines,
Exploring literary legacies, ancient to medieval works unveiled, Renaissance rebirth and 17th century flourish, a literary journey, Enlightenment to industrial revolution, literary evolution in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries, unlocking literary analysis, reader response approach, and close reading techniques.
News with no bias.
news with no exception.
Truth pursued.
Fair and first.
This is
News
21st.
Would you agree that it is such a privilege to explore ancient literary legacies as well as a transition to medieval works? Here's Prince Agibo for the full report.
Now, for the ancient literature. Babylon produced two epics of archetypal myth. Majority of the recorded dates of Babylonian myths originate from 700 BC, when they were first transcribed in cuneiform on clay tablets and stored in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal in Nineveh. The two major Babylonian epics, the Epic of Creation and the Gilgamesh epic, however, date back to around 2000 BC. The tale in the Epic of Creation justifies Marduk's rule over gods and men. It also reflects the political supremacy of Babylon in Mesopotamia, since Marduk was the chief god of the city. The Gilgamesh epic shows the failure of a man's quest to overcome death. Next up, Egypt shows mythical intuition by producing a supernatural world. The ancient Egyptians had a rich and complex belief system that included many gods and goddesses. Their myths and stories often explored the relationship between humans and the divine and the afterlife. This focus on the supernatural world is a key feature of Egyptian literature. Hebrew culture influenced the West by its writings of the Old Testament. The Hebrew Bible, also known as the Old Testament, is a collection of religious texts that have been incredibly influential in Western culture. These texts tell the stories of God's relationship with humanity. From creation to the prophets, the Bible has shaped Western literature, art, music, and law. Greeks and Romans established epic, tragedy, comedy, lyric, satire, history, biography, and post-narrative. The genres they established like epic, poetry, drama, and history continue to be used by writers today. Their works explore the themes of love, war, politics, and human nature that are still explored in modern literature. Some of the notable authors of ancient literature: Homer, presumed author of the Iliad and the Odyssey. These epics are about the heroic achievements of Achilles and Odysseus. Virgil, the greatest poet who was known for his epic, and it follows the Trojan refugee Aeneas as he struggles to fulfill his destiny and reach Italy. Sophocles, a tragic playwright. He was known for Oedipus Rex, where prophecies of marrying his mother could not be avoided as destiny meets its end. Moving on to the medieval literature. The period of the Eastern Roman or the Byzantine Empire, which established Christianity. The Byzantine Empire, which lasted from the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD to 1453 AD, preserved and spread Greco-Roman culture and Christianity throughout Europe and Middle East. This empire played a significant role in shaping medieval literature by providing a foundation of Christian themes and stories. Scriptures were regarded as a general principle to classical and secular writings. During the Middle Ages, the church held a powerful position in society. Religious beliefs and values heavily influenced literature. Many medieval works explored religious themes and incorporated biblical stories. Even secular writings often reflected Christian worldview. Romance and courtly love lyrics were popular among oral traditions. Medieval Europe had a strong tradition for oral storytelling, with tales passed down from generation to generation. These stories often formed the basis of written works, including romances that celebrated the themes of love, chivalry, and adventure. Courtly love lyrics were a significant genre of poetry that focused on the idealized and often unattainable love between a knight and a noble woman. Heroic epics of feudal society were reinterpreted throughout Europe. Feudalism was the dominant social system in medieval Europe. It was a system where nobles gave land to the knights and in exchange for protection and service. Epic poems, which are long narrative poems that celebrate heroic deeds and legendary figures, were popular during this time. These epics often reflected the values and ideals of feudal society, such as loyalty, bravery, and honor. Some of the notable authors of medieval literature are Dante was a poet, writer, and philosopher. His Divine Comedy is widely considered the most important poem of the Middle Ages. It depicts hell, purgatory, and heaven, provided inspiration to the Western art. Geoffrey Chaucer was a poet and author. He is best known for the Canterbury Tales, where a group of pilgrims as they traveled together from London to Canterbury to visit a shrine of St. Thomas Becket at Canterbury Cathedral. Petrarch. His sonnets were admired and imitated throughout Europe. He became the model of lyrical poetry. He developed the concept of the Dark Ages. Lastly, we have William Shakespeare, a playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He has written 39 plays and 154 sonnets. This is Prince Rio Sagibo reporting.
How did the rebirth of the Renaissance in the 17th century flourish in terms of literature? Let's answer that question in this report.
The Renaissance literature in the 17th century literature. The Renaissance, the awakening of new spirit of intellectual and artistic inquiry. The Renaissance literature marked a shift away from dominant medieval way of thinking. Scholars and artists become fascinated with rediscovering ideas and culture of classical Greece and Rome. This awakening is why the period is called the Renaissance, which means rebirth in French. Scholars search for and translated lost ancient texts. During the Middle Ages, many ancient Greeks and Roman texts were forgotten or hidden away. Renaissance scholars actively search for these lost works, translating them into Latin texts and then vernacular language like English and French. This newfound access to classical ideas had a profound influence on literature, art, and philosophy. New form of Christianity initiated by the Protestant Reformation led by Martin Luther. The rise of Protestantism led by Martin Luther in the early 16th century challenged the authority of the Catholic Church. These religious movements emphasized individual interpretation of the Bible and a direct relationship between believers and God. This challenge in religion thought also influenced the themes and ideas explored in Renaissance literature. Some notable authors: Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra, Spanish, known as the greatest Spanish writer and novelist. He is best known for his novel Don Quixote. An adventure of a noble lost his mind and decided to become knight-errant to revive chivalry and serve his nation. Christopher Marlowe, English, was a playwright, poet, and translator of Elizabethan era. He is known for his play Tamburlaine, where the Persian emperor wants to destroy the Scythian shepherd and bandit Tamburlaine. John Milton, English, a poet who wrote at a time of religious flux and political upheaval. He is best known for his epic novel Paradise Lost, related to Bible story of the fall of man, temptation of Adam, and Eve and by the fallen angel Satan and the explosion of the Garden of Eden. The 17th century, period of unceasing disturbance and violent storms. This century saw many political and social upheavals, including wars and revolutions. This event created a sense of uncertainty and instability reflected in the literature of time. Skeptical and rationalist mode of thought to political and theological controversy. In response to instability, there was a shift towards a more skeptical and rational way of thinking. People began to question established authorities and tradition, both in government and religion. This skepticism is evident in the themes explored by many 17th century writers. The use of allegory, rhetoric, and daring artifice is more favorable in Baroque literature. The Baroque literature, a prominent style of the 17th century, is known for its elaborate and sometimes dramatic use of language. Writers employed allegory, symbolic stories with hidden meanings, rhetoric, persuasive language, and complex structures to create their works. Some notable authors: Miguel de Montaigne, French, known for popularizing the essay as a literary genre. His work is noted for its merging of casual anecdotes. Martin Opitz, German, known as the greatest in his lifetime. He is known for his Daphne, regarded as the first German opera, which is a spoken drama with inserted song and ballet numbers. John Donne, English, a poet, scholar, soldier, and secretary born into the Requesant family. His poetical works are noted for the metaphorical and sensual style and include sonnets, love poems, and religious poems, epigrams, elegies, song, and satires. I am Emmanuel Alvar, reporting live. Back to you, Noela.
Thank you for that, Emmanuel. Next up, Enlightenment Industrial Revolution literaries. Here's Sandra de los Santos for the report.
Santos live about the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. The 18th century, also known as the Age of Reason, shown to the pursuit of order, symmetry, decorum, and scientific knowledge. The Age of Enlightenment and the Age of Reason are some of the names that the 18th century is famously known for. It was true to an intellectual and cultural movement that emphasizes reason over superstition and science over blind faith. In this era, they began questioning the religious beliefs and doctrine of the church, and instead focuses on factual reasoning and scientific methods. People in this era believed that the true goal of human rationality is freedom, knowledge, and happiness. This movement led a revolution in arts, politics, and philosophy. The cultivation of philanthropism, exaltation of personal relationship, religious fervor, and the cult of sentiment is known in this era. The 18th century was a time when people valued logic, order, and scientific knowledge above superstition and blind faith. During this period, there was a shift away from religious beliefs towards a focus on rational thinking and scientific methods. This rational impulse fostered satire, argument, wit, plain prose, and poetry of the sublime. Through humor and irony, they challenged beliefs while presenting logical arguments to engage readers in intellectual debates. Clear and concise prose was favored for its accessibility, aligning with the era's emphasis on reason and clarity. Some notable authors are Alexander Pope, one of the greatest English poets known for his satirical and discursive poetry, including The Rape of a Lock, where the character's guardian promises to protect her from any troubles and possible oracles. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a poet, playwright, novelist, scientist, statesman, theater director, and critic. His most celebrated drama, Faust, is a tragic play in two parts, had the largest audience numbers on German language stages. And lastly, Leo Tolstoy, a master of realistic fiction and one of the world's greatest novelists. In his fiction, God sees the truth but waits, depicts guilt, forgiveness, faith, conflict, freedom, and acceptance. Romanticism, symbolism, realism are reflected. Romanticism emphasizes emotion, imagination, often glorifying nature and past to evoke strong emotional responses. Symbolism conveyed deeper spiritual or psychological truths. Through symbols and imagery, symbolist writers and artists believed that the external world reflected deeper spiritual or psychological truths, using symbols, metaphors, and suggestive imagery to explore themes of spirituality, dreams, and subconscious mind. Realism depicted everyday and social reality, focusing on ordinary experiences and portraying them truthfully. These three were greatly evident in art, novels, and poems. Belief in self-knowledge was a principal article. Central to the cultural principle of the time was an emphasis on knowledge. Writers and intellectuals value introspection, the act of examining one's own thoughts, feelings, and experience. They sought to explore their inner selves through literature, believing that understanding oneself was key to learning the truth of existence. They believed that the real truth of things could be explained only through examination of their own emotion. In line with this emphasis on self-awareness, there arose a belief that emotion held the key to uncovering deeper truths. Authors focuses on human emotion using literature as a medium. Some notable authors: William Wordsworth, together with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, launched A Romantic Age, his masterpiece, The Prelude, a semi-autobiographical poem of his early years. Fyodor Dostoevsky, a Russian novelist, philosopher, short story writer, essayist, and journalist. His novel, Crime and Punishment, focuses on mental anguish and moral dilemmas. And lastly, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a Genevan philosopher, writer, and composer. His political philosophy influenced the development of modern political, economic, and educational thought. His discourse on inequality and social contract are cornerstone in modern political and social thought. 20th century literature. The awakening of a new consciousness in literature has begun. The 20th century marks the beginning of a shift in literature. Writers began to explore new themes, styles, and perspective, reflecting the changed dynamics of society and culture. There's an increasing sense of crisis and urgency, deep questioning of all philosophical or religious solutions to human problems. This era is characterized by a growing sense of crisis and urgency, leading to a deep questioning of traditional philosophical and religious solutions to human problems. Writers grapple with existential questions and confront the problem of modern life, challenging the already established beliefs and ideology. Communication media helped to create something resembling an international popular culture. The arrival of communication media facilitated the development of an international popular culture. Through mediums such as radio, television, and later internet, cultures around the world become increasingly interconnected, leading to the sharing and dissemination of ideas, values, and entertainment on a global scale. Some notable authors of the 20th century is Thomas Hardy, an English novelist and a poet. Many of his novels concern tragic characters struggling against their passion and social circumstances. His fourth novel, Far from the Madding Crowd, deals in themes of love, honor, and betrayal. David Herbert Lawrence, an English writer and a poet. His works explore issues such as sexuality, emotional health, vitality, and spontaneity, and instinct. And lastly, Thomas Stearns Eliot, a poet, essayist, publisher, playwright, literary critic, and editor. Is the central figure of English language modernist poetry. His known work, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, epitome, frustration, and impotence of modern individual and represent thwarted desires and modern disillusionment. I am Sanjay S. Dos Santos, reporting live. Back to you, Novella.
Want to know how to write a critique using the reader's response approach? Here's Nomer Gamo for the report.
Reader response approach and writing a close analysis. The reader response approach is a way of understanding literature that puts you, the reader, at the center. In other words, it focuses on how your reactions and interpretations help create the meaning of a text. Here's how it works. Imagine a text as a conversation starter. The author presents ideas and situations, but it's up to you, the reader, to engage with them. Your thoughts, feelings, and experiences all play a part in how you understand the story. There's no single correct way to read a text. The reader response approach encourages you to explore your own unique response to the story. Did a certain character remind you of someone? Did a particular event stir up emotions? These are all valuable parts of your interpretation. Supporting your ideas. While there's no right or wrong answer, a strong reader response analysis requires evidence to back up your claims. You can use different schools of thought like psychoanalysis, focusing on characters' motivations, or feminism to provide depth to your response. So what's a close analysis? Close analysis is the literary method of focusing on a specific detail of a text in order to create a deeper meaning present in it. This uses particular and often single ideas, as opposed to general paying attention to specific words, its pattern, and how it creates an idea for the reader. So, writing a close analysis. For the first one, we have introduction, which consists of one paragraph and around 20% of your paper. It contains the title of the work, author, and the date of publication if possible. We should establish our main thesis, or the issue we agree or disagree with. For the second one, we have body, which have 1 to 2 paragraphs, and around 60% of our paper. We should critique the text by considering these yes or no questions. Is it anti-poor? Does it affect religion, groups of people, women, or children? Is the article suited to the reader's intellectual capacity? Is the text poorly written? Does the text affect your past life? Is the protagonist right about his decision throughout the text? Do you agree with the author's perception of good and evil? And is the author's attitude toward his world morally acceptable? And for the last part, we have conclusion, which consists of one paragraph and around 20% of the paper. We should restate our main thesis or the issue you have criticized and state your overall impression. We should also answer, would you read another text written by this author? Would you recommend the text to other people? Additional points in writing close analysis and critical interpretation. Why do you like or dislike the text? Explain whether you agree or disagree with the author. Identify the text's purpose and critique the text. I am Nomer Gamo, reporting live for News 21st.
The world of literature is really fascinating, as written and carved in its history. And this ends our news broadcast. I am your anchor, Noela Loregas, delivering you nothing but the truth. News 21st.